Sidney Poitier was born on February 20th, 1927 in Miami, Florida, but he was raised in Cat Island in the Bahamas. His parents were on a trip to sell some tomatoes because his dad was a farmer. Then he was born in Miami and 2 months later moved back to the Bahamas. He was the youngest of 7 children. When he was 15 years old, his parents sent him to live with his brother in the United States. Then his family moved to the capital of Bahamas, Nassau. Sidney saw his first film there, and he described it as magical. It inspired him to be a cowboy. Sidney, when he was 5 to 11 years old, roamed the streets climbing, swimming, and fishing. But soon when he moved back to Miami to live with his brother at 15 years old. Sidney Poitier joined the American Negro Theater as his first step into theater. Well, after much research, I found out that before he came to the theater, he served in the army. He had some menial jobs before that. He finally decided to join the American Negro Theater and do what he loves to do. When he first auditioned for the theater, he was thrown out, primarily because his strong West Indian accent was hard to understand. He did janitor jobs for the theater so he could get speech lessons. He was a very determined person, and he worked very hard on his speech so he could get accepted, and he did. There was much segregation in that area of Miami. Schools were separated and even planes. If Sidney tried out in a white theater, he would be kicked out aggressively. All of Sidney Poitier's movies and theater acting was all about him playing a black role and fighting against racism. Some examples of his amazing movies are Guess Who's Coming for Dinner. It was the first interracial romance movie ever made in Hollywood. For his movie called Lilies of the Field, he was the first black man to win an Academy Award for Best Actor and the first black man to win an Oscar award. This was in the same area that MLK got the Nobel Prize. Poitier worked as a stage actor. He made his Hollywood debut in 1950 in No Way Out. He also appeared in Cry, The Beloved Country, and a movie with a setting in South Africa. As you can all see, these movies are all about blacks and racism, and people actually liked watching him. He was a star. He also directed many movies and also wrote many books. Lee Grant, a director who worked with Sidney, interviewed him not many years ago and said something about him that sums up Sidney's life and achievements. Quote, "When I became a director, I wanted to make that experience shared and convince a very reluctant Sidney into allowing me to go on the journey of his life. Sidney had gone ahead of every other African American actor, every Asian American actor, and every actor of color that was kept out of being on film in a leading role. With a bit on his mouth pulling everyone over the finish line, my instinct was that it was his childhood in the Bahamas, plus of course his great talent, that gave him the innocence and fearlessness to fight racism wherever he found it. And so this documentary was kind of a rounding out of what had begun in the scene in the heat of the night, and ended with an excursion through Sidney's life, which was, to me, a very triumphant journey. My question was, how did he find out his love and passion about theater? I found out that answer, and it was from being a little kid and being inspired from a small and unimportant film. I understood much about the acting life for black men and women in the 1920s to 1965s. I learned that there was an American Negro theater and it was very hard to get accepted into. Also that you would get discriminated and you would get into trouble from roaming the streets of New York at night. I learned that my race was trying to separate everythin from blacks. The theater was a main thing about some theaters lets black-ins. As Lee Grant said when Sidney was director, he let everyone in like Chinese, blacks, white, Jews, etc. All of the research I have done on Sidney changed the paradigm that I thought that happened between the whites and blacks. He never gave up on his dream, and even when he knew there might not be a chance, he knew that there would be a slight chance, like when he had the chance with his whole speech to get accepted into the theater. It was amazing to hear how he made his movies based off his race and culture. He even went to South Africa to film some movies he starred in. He broke the paradigm that people had about blacks in their theater in 1950. I was saying, quote, "I was saying to an audience, this is who I am. Look at me," end quote. Sidney Poitier. There is still some terms in justice and equality that need to be set in America. So, an example I thought about today was that a baseball player can be black or white. It doesn't matter, you can play the role. But in movies, a black person would never play Superman or Spider-Man. When you think about it, it is not okay and it is very injustice. People would think it's a parody that Superman would be black. I think this is injustice and unequal in movies. The major thing that really popped out at me when I researched about Sydney was that if you're good at something, go for it. And even if you don't like it, you're good at it for a reason and a special reason. Sydney might have not liked acting and directing, but he did it to send a point out there about race and to change the world.